Are y'all ready? We back already. This is Christian Hanahara here. My Cajun's coming out hard tonight. We got Nick here. What's going on, Nick?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Dude, I'm good. I'm good. It's starting for me to somewhat feel like Halloween outside. Like for me, it usually starts early. You know what I mean? I don't know what it's like up there in your neck of the woods, but down here, it gets hot fast and it typically stays hot. I usually get a week and a half of winter, but like today, it's feeling. There's a small area of the year where the weather is awesome, and right now I'm enjoying it. Now, in a couple months, it's going to be blazing hot, and then I'll get another slither of it around the beginning of October, beginning of late of October. And then here's the thing about down south, dude. In Louisiana, you ever heard the expression 4 seasons in a day?
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's not a gimmick. I mean, it's a shoot down here. I'm telling you, 4 seasons a day. But there's a few slivers of time up here where the weather's great. And right now I'm enjoying the last bit of it, but it's about to get blazing saddles where I'm at. But what is it like over there by you?
Um, so we're right now in the period where Ohio goes from raining every day to 90 degrees. So right now we're sitting like I think it was 85 today. But all week it's been like anywhere between 80 and 90. So Ohio doesn't have a spring. It's like an elongated winter and then jumps right into summer. So we've jumped headfirst into summer. That's how we're doing right now.
See, do you guys? I don't think y'all have a thing down here that's called humidity. You know, I assume your humidity's like, what is your humidity usually at? 20, 30%?
In July, it's probably like 40, 50.
Let me tell you
Um,
something. This is a shoot in Louisiana. I'm talking it's 95, 100% humidity. There are a lot there in the summer. There are stretches of 100% humidity. It's like being in a convection oven. I want to move out of the state, dude. I'm serious. I want to get out of here.
where would you want to go?
I had family in Michigan, but they moved down by us. So now it's like, well, why the hell would we go up there now? There's nobody. There's like, I don't want to be totally away from family. I need to have her family or my family. You know, I don't want to be alone. I'm not one of those people. I don't know if you watch The Office. You know, Stanley wanted to get into a decommissioned lighthouse and leave the planet Earth. No, I don't want to do that. But
Hmm.
I need some family. I can make friends fine. I can make friends with a dog. You know, that's not my problem. But I like to have some family by me because so that now that they're gone, I really don't have much reason to leave, which is a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my mom moved to Florida, and my younger siblings still live with her, but Brooke's family lives here, so we're still here. But we are actively talking about moving somewhere else. So it's only a matter of
Boy.
time.
You have to keep me up with that saga. All right, so Nick, before we get going, we were gonna. Here's the deal, guys. In full transparency, I was talking to Nick about this. First of all, thank you so much. The reception to episode 1 was great. I mean, I was thrilled. Everybody seemed to really enjoy it, and they were like, "Can't wait for more." So that's awesome. In full disclosure, we were going to do a Saw episode, but I was telling Nick, I mean, and it's not your fault. You've got a kid and everything. You saw the movie when you could, obviously. I just feel like the trains kind of left the station already, and the excitement's a little bit lower. So I just thought you doing what we're going to do today, it's something personal, and it's real. And what do people love? Personal, real stuff. You know what I mean? It's like people
Yes,
want to get
sir.
to know us. So
Well,
I don't
and
know.
and I will say to everybody that maybe was looking forward to that, I enjoyed Spiral as
Yeah,
Christian did as well.
So this is what we're doing today, guys. We're doing our top 10. I'm going to call it favorite. Look, I want to say top 10 favorite horror movies because the bottom line is my dog just made a guest appearance. First appearance on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I want to call this favorite. Now, there are a few in my list that I damn well would say they are some of the best ever. It's still personal opinion, but this is the most personal list I could make, Nick. I mean, these are my top 10 favorite horror movies, and it was not easy,
It
you
never
know.
is. I made a video on my channel 2 months ago on this topic. And as soon as I was done with it, I was like, I don't agree with that list. Like in the moment, that's your list. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, that's not my list. So as of today, this is my top 10 favorite.
Yeah. I dig it. So, what we'll probably do, there's a great podcast I listen to called the Purple Stuff Podcast. It's ran by Dinosaur Dracula. Great YouTube channel. I love that dude. And him and his partner, they'll do like a favorites, whatever, and they'll go back and forth, so we could do that. Do you want to go first with your number 10?
If you're giving me the floor, I'll take it.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my number 10. I struggled with putting this a little bit higher, but my number 10 is one that I think will land in Christian's list. I hope it does. But it's Pet Sematary. I love this movie, and I'm not going to hold this up the whole time. Just wanted to show it real quick. Physical media, buy it. But I don't know if it's obviously nostalgia. That movie messed me up as a kid, whether it be Zelda, whether it be the shoe in the road. I don't know what it is, but that movie killed me. And now as a parent, I literally made a comment to Brooke today. We were driving and I was like, I'd love to live in a house because we're moving in 2 months to a new house. I was like, I'd love to live in this type of area. And then I was like, well, no, it's right off a main road and we don't need a Pet Cemetery instance. And she was like, yeah, no. But I just love the movie. I love Fred Gwynn. I think he does fantastic. It's so dark and depressing, but at the same time, so emotionally driven. And it's a movie that's always going to stick with me because when I was a kid, I think the scariest thing I ever saw was Zelda. When I was a child, that just messed me up. And so, yeah, coming in at number 10 for me is Pet Sematary.
I want to comment on one thing. I need to do these again. I was having fun with them. I was doing like original versus remakes, breaking down what I liked about the original, breaking down what I liked about the remake, and I did Pet Sematary. Contrary to a lot, I'm with you. I do like the remake. I think it's suitable. I think it's fine. I don't really have any big gripes about it. But the reason I put the original over the remake is because Mary Lambert had the guts to put that funeral scene in there, and it's so painfully hard to watch because it's so real. I literally feel slimy after that scene. It's the hardest scene in the movie for me to fathom. Seeing the son get killed is shocking, more so sad for me because it's like, Jesus Christ, they went there. But the funeral scene is brutal, and I tell everybody there's a great documentary, you too, Nick, if you don't have it. It's called Unearthed and Untold. It's a Blu-ray that got put out. It's the best documentary I've ever seen about Pet Sematary. And it's got everybody as a part of it. Mary Lambert talks about how hard it was to get that movie made, which was shocking because, like, oh, that's a no-brainer doing Stephen King Pet Sematary. Nobody wanted to make that movie. They thought Stephen King adaptations were done by the late 80s. So, like, it's been done a million times over. People are burnt out on Stephen King. Nobody wants to see it. And she was like, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go for it. So I give so much credit to Mary Lambert. She's amazing. But that funeral scene is Zelda. I'm with y'all. Everybody's scared of Zelda. That she doesn't scare me as much as that funeral scene. It literally is just disgusting.
Yeah, and it always pissed me off and still does when I watch the movie that his father-in-law had the unmitigated gall to say what he did at the funeral. If I would have decked him. I would have knocked his old ass out. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is just not the time. I get it. People deal with grief differently, but that was not the way to go about it. And it was super insensitive. And every time I watch that movie, I'm like, if this were my kid and his funeral, like I would have knocked him out.
Not only that, I'm thinking to myself, well, why aren't you getting on to your daughter? Both of them are out there. It's obvious that he had. Here's another thing. Okay, we can't spend too much time on these movies because we'll be here all night. But I just got to say, why is he disliking his son-in-law, who's a doctor? You know what I mean? That's every father's dream.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I digress.
Yeah, but that's my number 10. Christian, what do you got coming in at number 10?
Okay, so my number 10, I'm actually the most excited to talk about this movie because I think a lot of people are going to love this movie. And one of my favorite things on the planet is the season of Halloween. Okay. Not necessarily the holiday is great, okay, but the build up to it is amazing. So anything that takes place during Halloween season or on Halloween night, I love it. This movie is a movie that if I was on a desert island and I could have a couple, I'm taking it. My number 10 is Trick or Treat. I love it. It's
It
one of my
almost made my list. It
yeah.
almost made my list.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why it's on my list. Because it's one of those movies that, sometimes I get a little bogged down because it's so popular that I'll see, and I'm guilty. I've got Sam replicas. I've got multiple Blu-rays. I've got a Sam head there. I've got a Sam head there. I've got the pumpkin from the movie there. I'm with it. Okay. It's merchandise to all hell. Spirit Halloween did a great job on Sam stuff a couple years ago. And I've got there he is right there. Gorgeous thing where he sits I digress. But my point is, sometimes I'm like, God, they're shoving Trick or Treat down my throat. But then I'll watch the movie, Nick, and I'm like, no, 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 this isn't a gimmick. This movie really is that good. And the story of it getting made by Warner Brothers, and they just were like, how do we market an anthology in the 2000s? Like, nobody does those. Let's just kind of shelve it. It's the little movie that could, and it came out eventually, and it spread like a virus, and now it's this cult phenomenon that is getting more merchant. It won't die. If anything, it's more popular now than when it came out in 2009ish, even though it was filmed in 2007, I
Yep.
think 2000. So what a testament to this movie. Now I don't have all the Blu-rays pulled out, but when Nick was talking, I figured why not grab this one, because this is also one of my favorite Scream Factory releases. Is this Trick or Treat released? Now Trick or Treat has a very vast release life on Blu-ray. You had I think a standard Warner Brothers. There's a steel book of it. I've got the Scream Factory of it. Great movie, guys. I'm sure that if you're listening to this right now, somebody out there right now is saying, damn, I want to watch Trick or Treat tonight. Which when I get done with this, I have to stay up because I'm on Graveyard tonight. I'm probably going to go chill on the couch and watch Trick or Treat. So I'm so happy to have that on my list. I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. I did my stream with Justin, and we were talking about it tonight, and I was like, this is a movie that I want to see a sequel so bad, not a continuation of that story. I just want to see Michael Dougherty come back, bring Sam back, give me new anthology stories, just give me more Trick or Treat, because my God, that is a staple in October. I love that movie. Absolutely love it. And you were talking about Spirit Halloween. I bought the lollipop with the bite out of it, and I kept it in the wrapper. I won't lie to you guys. Let me be honest. I took a couple licks of it and then put the wrapper back on, and I've kept it ever since.
Yeah. Well, what a movie, man. I just love it. Trick or Treat. Like, dude, this was hard. I was literally, Nick, I was going through my movie shelves and I was like, what the hell is going on this list? Because if you watch my channel, I'm the guiltiest at being like, oh, this is one of my all-time favorite movies right here. If I had $1 every time I said that, I could afford a podcast like studio for us to do the show in. Like, I'm serious because I say it so many times, but I will take a bullet on Trick or Treat. I will, because I mean it. So that's my number 10, man.
Me too. All right, number 9 for me. What's number 9? I don't have the standalone release yet, and that's just because of laziness, guys. So it's one of these, and number 9 for me is Child's Play 2.
I knew it. There you
go. Child's Play 2 for me, and I get, believe it or not, I get some flack for this. Child's Play 2 is everything Child's Play did well, but better acting from Alex Vincent, more Chucky, and the finale. The finale is the best finale in the series. I will die on that hill. And I think that the relationship between Andy and Kyle, I just love it. Child's Play 2 for me, it's when you finally, because everybody loves, you're in your monster movies. What do? You shroud your monster like they do in Child's Play for the first half of the movie, an hour of the movie. He's shrouded until the very end. Child's Play 2, we know we're dealing with Chucky. So this was our first foray into who is Charles Lee Ray, who is Chucky. And we got we got Chucky full force. We got the one-liners. How's it hanging, Phil? I mean, you name it, this movie has it. It's my favorite Child's Play movie, and it comes in at number 9 for me.
And what's so great about Child's Play 2 is I have days where I like the first one the most and days where I like the second one the most. But what's so great about Child's Play 2 is how it completely has its own identity and theme. Child's Play 1 is to me, it's the quote unquote horror film. And Child's Play 2 really starts like in the 90s, horror and people say horror was dead in the 90s, and that's still an argument I kind of have. I don't necessarily agree with that. But one thing that was successful through the 90s was killer doll movies. And even though Child's Play 2 is 90, which is really, just the start of that era, Child's Play 2, from the music, from the house that Andy goes to live in, all the colors, it's like a dollhouse movie. The soundtrack sounds like a haunted toy. Bum 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 bum. It's so different from the first one,
Mm-hmm.
which is so creepy and orchestral and amazing. But the second one completely has its own identity, and that's what I love about it. And I've always said that if I die and go to hell, it's that factory at the end of the movie. That is the
Yep.
scariest thing in the planet to me. Could you imagine being stuck in there?
No, no. And I I mean, I think one of the most suspenseful things in the entire series is when Andy is trying to crawl up that conveyor, and Chucky's right behind him, and he keeps slipping and falling down. Like every time I watch that scene, I'm just like, oh, imagine being a little kid and like going through that. That's really suspenseful. I just think it hits all the right spots. I love the movie.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
without question. And at this moment in time, I think it's the best one.
Yep. And
But
then tomorrow it'll be Child's Play.
Child's Play.
Yep.
And just so if you're watching the video portion of this, just a bonus, if you can see it, I'll move my mic out the way. But this custom Chucky doll, it's sculpted face wise and everything from the scene when Chucky is in the school room when he gets ready to kill Mrs. What's her last name? Kettlewell. It's a weird last
Kettlewell,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, but if you could see it, that's if you look right there, that's face is based off of that. So one of my favorite pieces in my collection.
Hell yeah.
All right, Nick, you may not have much to say about this one because you very well may not have seen this movie. I don't know. But if anybody that knows me will have zero surprise that this is in my list. My number 9 is Return of the Living Dead Part 2 from my favorite franchise. Well, my number one is my number one. Everybody already knows it if you know me. But Return of the Living Dead Part 2, I watched this again today. It's the most comforting zombie film on the planet. I love zombie movies. It seems like a lot of people don't like zombie films anymore, probably because it's been done to death. But a good zombie movie to me, I can't get over how much I love them. Part 2 gives me so much joy. First of all, the soundtrack. When a movie gives me like the gift of finding one of my favorite musicians ever, you can't put a price on that. There's an artist named Julian Cope who used to be in a band beforehand in the early 80s called The Teardrop Explodes. He went solo. He had a big MTV hit called World Shut Your Mouth on an album called St. Julian, and a song from that album was on this movie. In the beginning of the movie, when one of the truck drivers for the army is driving the truck that has the big trioxin barrels, there's a song playing. I would always like, God, that song is awesome. I looked up Julian Cope, found the song, got the soundtrack on vinyl, all that, and I fell in love with it. I love the makeup effects of this movie. I love Ken Wiederhorn. He's a great director. This is one of those movies that has kids, kind of like Child's Play, that don't annoy the crap out of you. And I love that. Now, some movies, the kids are supposed to be annoying. I understand that. But this movie, to me, is perfect in its own right. James Cameron comes back. Tom Matthews comes back. Suzanne Snyder is so freaking adorable. I love her red hair in this movie. I just love this movie. It's not the first one. And, of course, I will be talking about that. You can bet your bottom dollar. But I love Part 2 without question. Nick, I don't even know if you've seen Part 2. It's not.
Oh, I have.
You
I
have?
have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really, and it's not a fan favorite. Some people dig it, some people hate it, some people like Part 3 way more than Part 2, and I don't argue that. I like Part 3 as well, but I love Part 2. I'll take it to my grave with me.
Yeah, I grew up with one of my closest friends, Tommy. Zombie movies were his thing. I mean, I even saw some of the bad ones. Diary of the Dead, to name one that I did not care for. He had all of them, and I always told him, and this is not a popular opinion, I know, but I always liked that movie. And he was like, dude, not a lot of people like Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And I was like, I think it's cool. Like, I think it's fun. And part of that is because I like the first one as well. I mean, it's not hard for me to like a sequel to a movie that I really enjoy unless it completely goes off the rails. But I enjoy it too. So I think you'll be surprised to know that, yes, I have seen it. And yes, I do enjoy it.
That's cool. That's cool. I just love that little kid. He's witty, he's funny, but he doesn't annoy me. You know why? I don't know
Yeah.
why kids have to be so damn annoying. Maybe because I'm not one anymore.
Oh my God. I know. It's
Yeah.
funny too. I watched Friday 5 tonight and I was reminded of one kid that isn't terrible, Reggie. I didn't hate him. I thought he did well acting.
He's a fan favorite. I mean,
Yeah.
Reggie has his own T-shirts for God's sakes.
Yeah, I enjoyed him. I was like, hey, a kid actor that doesn't make me want to turn this movie off. Like, that's great because going back to Pet Cemetery, love it. Hated the performance by the little girl that played Ellie. And I think that is like a well-known thing that nobody likes her performance.
Well, people called me out too about that. I was like, I thought she was a bad actor, but people were like, no, she's just annoying because she's a kid, and that very well could be the case. Maybe I don't know. To me, it seems like she's reading lines and she's
Yes.
being. That's the impression I get from her performance.
Well, because being a child actor doesn't mean you have to be bad. Look at Danielle Harris in 4 and 5 Halloween.
Amazing.
She was not a bad actress. No, it's like you either have it or you don't. And kudos to her. She's in an all-time great horror movie, and she did what she could. But it did seem like she was like right before they were like action. It was like, here's your script, here's your lines, memorize them, go.
That's the impression I got.
Yeah.
That's really the impression I got. I don't know, but I digress. We don't need to get back on pets.
Yeah, guys.
We could probably have a 6-hour conversation.
Oh yeah,
about Pet
yeah.
Cemetery.
All right, so
that was my number 9. So
number 8 for me. Yeah, 8. Number 8 for me is a movie that a lot of people have come around on, and I'm super happy about it. And this might surprise some people to be in my top 10, but whatever. Evil Dead 2013. I love this movie. The only thing I don't like about this movie is Lou Taylor Pucci's character, who decides as he's, scribbling on the book, like, do not read aloud, do not speak his name. Oh, okay. Kanda, like, come on, dude. But aside from that, I love the movie, from the practical effects to Jane Levy to the scenes of her in the cellar and the stuff she says. It is so dark. I'm like, every time she delivers a line when she's possessed, I'm like, I feel like I'm going to hell just for liking this and enjoying this. But I digress. She does fantastic. She carries the movie. Her arc from addict to, basically schizo to possessed demon to the heroine at the end. Her arc is fantastic. I love the movie. I mean, I love the movie. This will be one of those movies that I got a Necronomicon cartoon version tattooed on me years ago.
Nice.
And I do plan on getting Ash with the boomstick tattooed on me at one point. I mean, I love this series, but yeah, Evil Dead 2013, man, I cannot get enough of it.
It really is one of the better. Now, you would call that, okay, look, we've had this conversation, and I want to get it right. I don't want people to think I'm just lazy and don't care. It's in the timeline and in the world of Sam's Evil Dead movies. So it is a reboot, which is basically in that world, but it's kind of starting a new chapter, right? Yep. It's not a remake.
Yeah, because the idea was, as Sam Raimi said in an interview, we go Evil Dead 2013, Army of Darkness 2, Evil Dead 2, and then we merge Ash and Mia's timelines. That's what they wanted to do. And I don't know why they didn't do it, because Evil Dead 2013 was well received critically and commercially. So, yeah, double whammy. Everybody liked it. But then Starz did the TV series, and I think that's when it kind of died off, because the TV series comes out, first season does well, and then it putters out immediately after that. And they're like, oh, nobody wants to see Bruce Campbell as Ash anymore. I don't think that's true. I think that the format of cable television wasn't the right way to go.
I thought that was a
But
huge mistake myself.
yeah. And then Bruce Campbell's like, well, no one wants to see it anymore, so I'm retiring. And I'm like, no, it's not that people don't want to see it. They want to see it on the big screen.
I agree. I wanted a movie. They said they had too much
Yeah.
stuff to make an hour and a half movie. Guys, nobody wanted. I don't want to speak for everybody. Nobody wants new characters. Nobody wants this. I mean, Evil Dead 2013 was to me a phenomenon because it's not often you can do that kind of thing and people dig it. But nobody, I just think, wants a bunch of new characters. We just want Ash. We want him working at the shop as Smart. We want him down on his luck, but still thinking he's God's gift to mankind, like he is. And we want him fighting demons. That's what we wanted, and we wanted it to be funny.
Yep.
At least I wanted it to be funny. But who knows?
And I loved
another
Ash
one,
versus
right?
Evil Dead. I loved, Evil Dead Rise, and it comes out next year. They're actually filming it right now. It's currently filming. I can't remember what country it is, but it's filming right now. Bruce Campbell is producing, and so is Sam Raimi. And it takes place in a skyrise.
Oh boy.
We shall see.
All right, so that was your number 7, right?
8.
That was your number 8. That's right. I'm skipping. All right, so my number 8. I am a Southern boy. This is one of the movies. This is a movie I revisit so often, and sometimes you have movies that you'll like more as time goes by. Sometimes you have less, and this is one that just stays the same. I loved it since the first time I watched it. I loved it till this day.
I know what it is.
I don't think you do. You'll know the movie. You know what? Take a guess. What do you think?
No, well, you're talking about Southern Boy, so I immediately think TCM, something Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You're right, but hold on.
Part 2.
That's exactly right. Because I want to say this: when we make a greatest horror movies ever, where we try to put our critic caps on and looking at it as a whole, what's the best movies ever? That movie's going to be in there. But Part 2 is my most watched Texas movie. I love it. I love the remake. What?
You all heard it here first. He didn't think I could predict it. I predicted it.
I'm actually impressed. But
I know you love the movie, man. I watch your channel. I know you love that movie. I knew.
Dude, first of all, like, that movie is exactly what I love about horror. You've probably heard me say this too. I am a horror comedy guy. I love blood and guts, but I like to laugh. I love it. That is Chop Top's movie. I love him so much. That's still my favorite. Well, no, it's not. Otis from House of Thousand is, in fact, my favorite Bill Moseley role, but Chop Top is literally just a hairline below it. It's close.
Two iconic characters. I mean, like, you pick one, but they're both fantastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, great lead with Carolyn Williams. You've got Dennis Hopper, who is a literal madman on film. You can't beat that. Tom Savini effects. Great. Remember the opening scene where they're driving the truck backwards?
Oh yeah.
How do you beat that?
I've always said about Texas Chainsaw 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is everything that Part 1 did right, but bigger, and more money, bigger set pieces, and more just outlandish comedy. And some people were turned off by that. Dude, I love it. Watching that movie, it is such a freaking blast. It's so fun.
And here's the thing, too, and I understand that argument because people say the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't funny. The irony is, and I agree, I don't think it's the first one's funny, but the irony is Tobe Hooper says, no, the film is very humorous. And I see what he means when you look at the dialogue from the family and stuff and how they react. But the problem is that soundtrack he created is probably one of the most haunting, serious, death-defying soundtracks in the world. So that's why it's not funny. Now, Part 2 has a great score, and that's what gives it that shade of gray that associates it with being more so as a horror comedy. Music is everything. Everything. You could make John Carpenter's Halloween seem a little bit goofy if you had the right kind of score to it.
Yeah, just use a clown cop score from Halloween 5.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Exactly. So I get why people don't think it's funny. I'm one of them. I think it's scary as hell, but part 2 is perfect. I love it so much. So that's another movie that I'll take it to my grave with
So
me.
then let me ask you real quick, Christian, for everyone watching right now or listening, what is, when you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, what scene comes to mind?
The scene that always comes to mind for me is when Chop Top invades the music studio and Stretch is just getting really uncomfortable and all this and and then that whole scene where Leatherface busts down the door and does the dry humping. It's so
That's my favorite scene
ridiculous.
too.
But I agree with Carolyn Williams. I don't think that the scene is being sexist at all. I think it's like Carolyn Williams said, she is like, I'm gonna manipulate this son of a gun. I'm gonna make him think he's getting what he wants, and I'm gonna get the hell out of here. So I first of all, Carolyn Williams is one of my favorite final girls, if you want to call her that in the movie. But yeah, I love that the any. I love the music studio, the recording studio, the radio station stuff.
Yep.
I love that aesthetic to begin with.
That,
So
yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. That's the scene I think of too.
there's one more scene that comes to mind, and it's the silliest damn scene. It's when he's chopping the wood at the chainsaw store, and the old man's just laughing his butt off. It makes no sense, but it's hilarious.
None. Yes. All right. Texas Chainsaw Part 2, guys. It is a great movie if you haven't watched it. If you have watched it and you didn't like it, give it another chance. So, number 7 for me. This is a movie that's going to come in higher on Christian's list. I know it is. I love it. Okay. I'm a horror fan, so the fact that it's in my top 10 tells you something. Number 7 is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Look, rewatching this movie a couple weeks ago reminded me of how much I truly love this movie. As we get into the sequels, there are things that the sequels do well that the first one may not have done as well. Like, for example, Freddy's Revenge. Freddy's very dark. And if you like that, you wanted a more dark, macabre kind of Freddy, well, then Freddy's Revenge is for you. For me, the first one makes it into my top 10. Obviously, you have Heather Langenkamp. Obviously, I love Johnny Depp's kill, one of the most iconic kills in horror history, in my opinion. But the thing about Nightmare 1 that sets it apart from every movie in that series is the shrouding Freddy in darkness. And that calls back to your classic monster movies of don't show too much of the monster. And I love that. I'm not, I'll give you guys a spoiler. There's no Friday movies in my top 10. That doesn't mean I don't like them, but they don't have the same oomph to me as a movie like Nightmare. Although I will say the twist of Pamela Voorhees in part 1 is pretty freaking awesome, but whatever. I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. I really, really do. I struggled with putting it higher because that's one of the first horror movies I ever saw because of my mom. She loved it. And I love it. I love the movie. I really do. And I don't even need to. I mean, I'm going to ask Christian to bounce back off of me, but we already know Freddy's his dude. So,
Yeah. I'm just glad that you said that. It's hard to find people, and it's not that they're wrong. Everybody, like, dude, I get it. If you ask me what's the biggest horror franchise in the world, my answer is typically, oh, it's Friday the 13th. I find more people on planet Earth that love that franchise more than Halloween even. Now, granted, Halloween has a rabid fan base, but it seems like the average person I meet, it's 2-1 Friday compared to Halloween or Nightmare. It just is. So I can respect that Friday is the biggest. To me, it's the biggest one ever. But what you said about Nightmare has that thing, that X factor that you don't get from Friday. I get that. And it's hard for me to explain that to people. But to me, Freddy is the greatest horror icon on the planet. To me, there's no bigger There's no better. The only thing that pisses me off about Freddy is none of these t-shirt companies can give me great looking shirts for Nightmare. That really aggravates me. Terror Threads, you guys make some pretty good ones, but just please keep it simple. Enough with the. Anyway, I'm sorry. That's why it's great. Halloween shirts, you can get them great ones everywhere. You know, Gutter Garbs, Terror Threads, they all make great Halloween shirts. But Freddy, I can't find good shirts for Nightmare. But I get what you mean, dude. There is an X factor to Freddy that, to me, it's deep. It's more than skin deep. I will not say. I'm not going to say Freddy isn't Nightmare on Elm Street films. They're not slasher films. They are, but they're not just that. There's something else to it that it's everything to me. I mean, I couldn't go without the Nightmare. I'm not going to say where they're at on my list or if they are. I'm going to keep the suspense going. But yeah, I mean, what else do I have to say that I haven't already? You guys, if you watch my channel, you know Freddy is the king to me. He's the king to me. And I'll say this. Freddy versus Jason is crap, okay? I'm not saying the movie is crap. Freddy would destroy Jason, okay? There's no battle. The only Jason that could put up a fight is if Kane Hodder would have done it. You're going to tell me Jason's afraid of water? Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think the thing is, when you say that Friday is the biggest, it's the most easily accessible. You know, teenagers camping, getting drunk, getting high, having sex. Like, it's the most, it's a summer slasher movie. It's the most easily accessible. But the thing about Nightmare is we all have dreams. We all have to go to sleep. We don't all have to go to a camp and get high and get laid. So for me as a kid, it was so scary with Freddy, because it's like, I'm going to have to sleep tonight. And this dude can come into my dreams. So that's my number 7. Christian, what's yours?
My number 7 is the very first movie my family ever watched on DVD. So this is going back to like 99. Okay, so DVD had been out for a few years, but it wasn't popular because the PlayStation 2 hadn't dropped yet. It was close. I remember it was really close to the PlayStation 2 drop, which made DVD very popular in America. But so what we did, we bought a player. My dad forked up whatever it was, like $350 for DVD player back in 99, whatever. And we went to Blockbuster and we rented Jaws, and I was scared crapless. So till this day, now this is one that if we ever do top 10 best, this very well could be the number 1 for me. I think Jaws is a masterpiece from start to finish. I don't think Steven Spielberg ever did a movie as good as Jaws. He's done some amazing stuff, but I think Jaws still is the best movie ever he's done. Scariest movie, some of the best character development I've ever seen between Quint, Hooper, and Brody. I mean, them on the ship at night talking to each other, sharing scars, telling stories. You can't write anything better than that. I just don't think you can. You fall in love with all 3 of them, and it's magical. And that shark, I mean, you can't tell me that CGI will ever touch practical real effects. That shark is real. Could you imagine? Okay, so it's on a track under the water, okay, and it's on a contraption. Even though it's fake and it's this robotic thing, could you still imagine having to be out on the water and that thing being near you? It would scare the crap
Dude, it's
out
so
of me.
funny you mentioned that, because years ago, before they got rid of it, we went to Universal Studios and we rode the Jaws ride, and they used one of the sharks that they used in one of the movies in the ride. It was actually a screen used shark. And I was terrified on that boat. My mom was like, it's not a real shark. I was like, dude, if I fall off and I'm in the water with that thing, I don't even care if it's fake. It doesn't look fake. And it just makes me think like there's a big ass great white that's about to eat me. Like, I mean, yeah, no, I totally agree. That ride scared the crap out of me, because I was like, I don't want to fall in the water with this thing. I don't care if it's fake. I don't trust it. I mean, Jaws made me really quick. I went to the Outer Banks, North Carolina, the Outer Banks on vacation years ago. The Outer Banks is notorious for great white activity. And you're not supposed to go out in the water after sunset, because that's when they feed. And that movie made me terrified to boogie board off of the Outer Banks because of great whites, because of Jaws. So yes, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Hmm. Yeah. And I love part two. I love part three and four, even though they're funny and whatever. But the first movie, man, I can't live without Jaws. And that's a gorgeous 4K. If anybody's gotten into that, that 4K looks really, really good.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, no, that's a damn good pick, man. Well, coming in at number 6 for me is my favorite in this series. I have two from this one series. And oh my goodness, what is it? Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is number 6 for me, and this wasn't even hard. Everything Evil Dead did right, or the Evil Dead did right, Evil 2 did better. Better effects, more comedy, leaning into the kind of Bruce Campbell losing his mind. Um, I love the movie. You have iconic scenes of Henrietta in the cellar. That's nightmare fuel. I don't care who you are. That's terrifying. Um, Cutting off the hand, the whole battle with his hand in the kitchen, the claymation. I love Evil Dead 2. The first time I watched it scared the crap out of me. And I'm not afraid to admit that. It was just freaky. Some people are like, oh, I don't like that they leaned into the comedy more. I felt like it made it almost scarier because it's like, yeah, this dude pretty much lost his mind. Um, I love Evil Dead 2. That's number 6 for me.
there's still a scene that scares the hell out of me whenever I see it. It's when the girlfriend gets headless, and first off, that stop motion claymation dance thing is just creepy, and it's like the most Tim Burton esque creepy looking
Yes.
thing. And then when the door flings open and she's headless and she's got the chainsaw, the
Hmm.
way that they made that body move freaks me out because it's so fast. Oh man,
Yep. Yep.
you know.
I'm sure I know Christian's a fan of the movie too. I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this, you're like, oh yeah, Evil Dead 2. It's not that I don't like Evil Dead, the Evil Dead. I do. I like Evil Dead 2 more. I don't know.
Mhm. All right. So now we're up to this is my number 6, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So full disclosure, there are two Nightmare movies on my top 10 favorites. And
Hmm.
coming in number 6 should be no surprise is a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Frederick's Revenge. Now, Nick, do you know the story, my Freddy 2 story about how I became a horror
um,
fan?
I, you told me it. I don't know if I remember it.
I'll keep it brief, okay? I love telling this story, okay? Because this is the day I became a horror fanatic, okay? Really quickly, so we're at the tail end of high school for me. So it's 2009, 2008. My brother was like, "Hey, let's go to Spirit Halloween." He was going to we were going to have like a Halloween party, whatever. And we went to Spirit Halloween, and I was just engulfed. And I had been numerous times before, but this one time I just got really engulfed in the atmosphere of everything I was seeing, the big giant animatronic Frankensteins and the Freddy masks, the Jason masks, you name it, okay? And I was like, I want to watch some horror movies. This just all looks so fun, right? Because before this, it was casual viewing, casual. So I I go home and I was like, Mom, when you go to work tomorrow, can you stop at Blockbuster and pick up a Nightmare on Elm Street for me? Sure, son, because she worked by one. She came home the next day. And I was like, all right, Mom, did you get it? She goes, well, somebody was renting the first one, but they had part two. Do you think that's fine? I was like, whatever, I don't care. So the very first Nightmare movie I ever watched, like legitimately watched, because I'm sure it was on when I was younger, what have you, but was part two, and it scared the hell out of me. I mean, because when you're not that exposed to a lot of horror, and you see a movie like Nightmare 2, oh my God. First of all, just yes, all the gay stuff went right over my head. Didn't notice any of it. Now I'm like everybody else, how could I? But it did. And I'll never forget when they got to the scene where Mark Patton is in Jesse is in Grady's bedroom and he's sleeping on the couch and he's like, it's happening again. And you see Freddy burst out of him. I was in shock. It scared the hell out of me. And I still to this day, scariest look of Freddy. That Freddy could go up against any Jason, in my opinion, and it's not even a remote fight. That Freddy is the devil himself. That's no BS. That's the devil.
Yep.
Okay, that ain't no dream demon. That is Satan. Okay, coming out of Jesse in that movie. So I love part two. It's got its flaws production wise. It's not the best edited one. It's not the best produced one, but there is a certain magic to it that when they need to get it right, it's right. And
Yep.
it's got Clue Gallagher in it as
Oh
Jesse's
yeah.
dad. So how do you of course you're going to see him again on my list, but how do you beat that? So I love part 2. It's the black sheep from the franchise, and I love black sheep. You may see another black sheep in this list, but part 2 can't live without it. Cannot live without it.
Another black sheep. Oh my god. Halloween 3? I don't know. Anyway, um yeah, no. Freddy's Revenge. I enjoy it too. And like I said, I think it's the darkest Freddy. So, hey, you'll get no complaint from me about that. I think that movie kicks ass. That's a solid pick, and it's a gutsy pick because you know there's going to be people in the comments like, "Oh, Freddy's Revenge. Oh, there's better nightmare movies than that."
True, but you know what, Nick? I'm really surprised and happy that movie truly is getting
Oh
a
yeah,
bigger
yeah.
following.
It's starting to gain its following, and I respect the hell out of that because I feel like that's one of the, in my opinion, one of the better made Friday nightmare movies. One of the better Freddy's. Um, and some of those, like you said, the subliminal messaging and kind of the psychological, I don't know. It's just, it's very layered. It's a deep movie. I mean, you have to watch it more than once. If you watch it once, you're not going to get everything. You got to watch that movie more than once because there's a lot going on there. So, yeah.
It's clear to me now that Jesse wants to have a sexual relationship with Grady. When I watch the movie now, after all these, because like there is a sexual tension, but not necessarily from Grady to Jesse, but certainly from Jesse to Grady.
Yeah.
The way he's just, I don't know. It's soft. It's not really the most outwardly thing, but then again, it really kind of is. Just like the way he gets upset with Grady. You remember when Grady's eating lunch and stuff? Just the way he yelled, "Shut up, Grady!" Like there's tension there, and I
Yeah.
love it. I love it, and I
And
love Robert Rustler. He's
we
so
can't
great.
minimize how ballsy that was for a horror movie in the 80s to layer on that, that subplot because you didn't see that a lot in the 80s. The 80s, look, we're all horror fans. Let's be honest with ourselves. What were the 80s all about? Blood and boobs. That's all that was the 80s. This was like, let's take this a different direction. I enjoyed it. I really do. I think it's a solid pick, dude. Like,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, there it is.
All right. Well,
We'll
then
talk
we're in
about
the.
Freddy more later in this
Oh, yeah,
list.
we will. I'm sure we will. Number 5 for me is a more modern movie. May surprise some people. I hope it doesn't because I think it's a movie that has earned its keep. I don't know what's on the case of it, but whatever. There's my son probably got a hold of it. The Conjuring. Look,
Right.
I will defend this movie till I die, and I don't feel like I need to because everybody pretty much reveres this as a modern horror classic for sure. Um, Scariest movie theater experience I ever had. Um, I think the acting's fantastic. I think Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson work off of each other together. Like, I don't know, their chemistry is insane. Um, I think the set pieces, the score, James Wan's directing, some very simple things that turn into scares. And you're like, damn you, James Wan. Like you can take someone walking up steps and make it scary somehow. Um, I love the movie. I love the movie. It had a lasting impact on me. And like I said, it's one of the only movies I've ever watched where I was in the theater kind of like, oh, God, no, I watched it, but I was like, oh, I'm kind of scared. And I won't lie. So The Conjuring comes in at number 5 for me.
Yeah, a great theater experience for me as well. I love both of those movies, man. I like two as much, if not more than one, actually, because
Just you wait.
yeah, I'm a punk rock guy, so I like stuff that's different. That movie wasn't in America, so all that. But the first one is awesome, and I agree. The relationship between Vera and what was the gentleman's name?
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson. They are a match made in heaven. I mean, they are a movie couple. I mean, like they just should go together. Um, it's great seeing James Wan do movies that become hits because is James Wan a modern horror like legend? I think so. I think he's
Yeah.
done a lot of great stuff, and it's easy to kind of pick on these guys because they're known for certain types of things. Well, you know, uh, give it time. I mean, I'm sure we'll be talking about James Wan the same way we may be doing Wes Craven or Toby Hooper or John Carpenter. Um, I think I think guys who make movies that they truly want to make, which when you watch a James Wan film, it's very individualistic, even if it's subject matter that's been done to death, like possession and demons and stuff like that. That those are typically the movies that stand the test of time and build a bigger fan base. So yeah, I got no problems with that. I
Yeah, I
love The
mean,
Conjuring.
look at his filmography. Over a span of a few years, he did Saw, The Conjuring, Insidious, The Conjuring Two. I mean,
Dead
those are all
Silence.
four Dead Silence. That's five great movies, scary movies.
Yeah.
Like, love the dude. But
And,
Christian,
and go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what's your number five? Because we could talk about James Wan all night.
These are great. Guys, if you're listening to this, please tell us what you want us to talk about in future videos because a James Wan retrospective would be so fun.
Oh yeah.
Okay, number 5 comes from the year. I think almost everything has been 80s so far for me. I can't help it. No, not everything, but 1989, technically 1990. This is a childhood favorite. This is one of my most terrifying films as a kid, and I have fallen in love with it more and more throughout the years. That is Puppet Master. Puppet Master has to make my list. I love it to death. Blade, Tunneler, Pinhead, Leech Woman, the creepiest looking puppets ever. I love it. There's nothing quite like Puppet Master. I love the story behind it. Charles Band, he leaves Empire Pictures. He says, I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to do Full Moon Features. Let's start out with a bang. Creates Puppet Master, gets the distribution from Paramount, which was huge for that company. And Puppet Master became a phenomenal hit on the movie shelves. People thought that they just didn't see it in theaters because it was one of those movies, but sure enough, it went straight to video. So that's a testament to that film and how good it was that people thought they missed it in theaters. But it's still going. The series is still running today. There has been a lot of ups and downs with the franchise, but that's going to happen when you run it as long as Charles Band has ran it. But that first classic Puppet Master is my favorite of the series. Nothing's changed yet, and I'm sure it won't for a very long time. So I have to have Puppet Master. Some of my friends like Drew would be mad if they were like, "Dude, you didn't have Puppet Master in your list." So it's got to be in here. I mean, that movie is everything to me. So Puppet
Yeah.
Master.
I love the first movie, and I wanted to ask you really quick while we're on the topic. I have not seen The Littlest Reich. Is it any good?
Oh yeah. So the people on the front of the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever you get, it says from the producers of Bone Tomahawk. Whoever that guy is, he has my full trust because not only did he, first of all, it's kind of a remake. Okay, it's in its own kind of world, but it retells the beginning of Andre Toulon, the puppet master, and how he evades, Nazi Germany and all that, and yada yada. So it kind of reboots, remakes. I would call it a remake. It's kind of weird, but it's like an alternate timeline, kind of like Halloween 2018, but doesn't have anything to do with the first movie or anything. But regardless, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but
Hmm.
it's awesome. It was bloody. It was gross. It was hilarious. It took place in Texas, so it felt very close to home for me. Very good. And then they just did Castle Freak, which is another full moon movie that the producers of Bone Tomahawk got their hands on and did that, and they did a great job with that too. So if you see it, buy it because it's great.
All
Really
right.
good. And they did I don't want to call it updated designs for the puppets, but it's their own flavor, the look of the puppets. So yeah, love Littlest Reich.
Well, I need to check it out then. I mean, I trust your opinion. So, all right. Coming in at number 4 for me is a movie that probably won't surprise a lot of people that it's in my top 10, and that is Scream. Look, Christian and I have said this multiple times on this episode already. We could go on all night about some of these movies. Scream reinvigorated, I think, the slasher genre, took some of the best things from Halloween, Friday, whatever you want to call, whatever movie you want to say it took inspiration from. A lot of Halloween for sure. But injected that meta self-awareness to it that worked so well for the time. Worked so well that Halloween H2O was like, let's be Scream, even though there's 6 movies before this movie that we could just work off of, but let's be Scream. I love Scream. I think that it is a movie that I don't think I'm ever going to get tired of watching. And yeah, Scream comes in at number 4 for me, man.
I dig it. Yeah, I love the first Scream. I don't find myself rewatching them a whole lot, but I am excited about this knowing the more time goes by. I have a great idea for what they should do, but I have no idea what they're doing. Because there's been a lot of speculation, right, about this person's coming back. Skeet Ulrich is coming back. Do we know if he's officially back yet or not? Or
He's not. We haven't heard anything about Matthew Lillard or Skeet Ulrich aside from they want to come back. That's all we've heard.
If they do come back, then there's only one thing they can do, and I think this would be a riveting movie. I want the movie to be meta, and I want it to be a Scream convention where Nev, Courtney, David Arquette, Skeet, Matthew Lillard, the blonde hair girl, Tatum Riley, what's her name?
Rose McGowan.
Rose McGowan. I want the main cast to go do, like, in the movie, they're at a convention and they're doing like a panel and they're having a good time. And then you see, it's a movie, right? It's not a found footage thing. It's a real movie. And then you see them leaving the convention. They're all like, y'all want to go hang out at the hotel and get something to eat? It's great to see all you guys. Let's go out to dinner and stuff. And they go out to dinner. They're having a great time. And a super freaky fanatic fan dresses up as a ghost face and tries to kill him. Or we think it's a fan. We don't know who it is. They could somehow get a really, maybe it's Jamie Kennedy. But I want to see a meta thing where it's them being real people, because New Nightmare is a movie I've fallen in love with more so over the years, and I really dig that meta thing. And I think if it was going to be done in anything else, this could be the franchise to do it, and it would be gutsy as hell. So that's what I want it to be, but I'm probably just hoping and dreaming.
Yeah. I have read some leaks, and I won't divulge them, but I will say that unfortunately, Christian, that's not the route it's going. But the route it is going is it's very intriguing. I like it a lot.
We'll talk about it off air.
The only thing I don't want to happen is Neve Campbell dying. You don't go 4 movies being the badass and one of the best final girls in horror history and just die. Like, if Courtney Cox dies, cool. David Arquette dies, cool. Neve Campbell, nope. Don't kill her. Don't even touch her. But I digress. Christian, what's your number 4?
Hold on. Okay, I'm just going to get my Scream rant out of the way really quick. All right. I'm with you, okay? I know that people are like, nobody's dying. This is BS. What the hell? Yada, yada, yada. But what really pisses me off is the one character in the series that gets killed. It made the least sense for him to die because he's way smarter than that. And you know what I'm talking about.
Randy.
It pisses me off to this very day. To this very day. Not only that, he was cooler in 2. He got a little facial hair. Why did he not end up with Sydney? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
Kevin Williamson, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity. I mean, I've said when I did my Scream ranking, I think the only reason that Scream 2 is below Scream is because Randy died and you lost Randy 30 minutes into the movie. I mean, it's almost blasphemous. Like, this dude knew in the first movie who it was, like why they were doing what they were doing. Like he was so much smarter. He was a step ahead of everyone. And I totally agree. Killing him was something that Kevin Williamson should never live down.
I'm still salty about it, dude. I'm just
I
salty
am too.
about it.
I am too.
All right, I'm
But all
pissed off
right,
now.
what's your
What are
number
we at?
4, Christian?
God almighty, number 4. All right, my number 4 is you know what?
It is Dragon Tales.
No, it's not Dragon Tales. That was
Oh,
number 11. Didn't make the list.
okay, shit.
Honestly, okay, so my number 4 is a movie called The Exorcist Part 3, which is one of the scariest movies on the planet. When I
Legion.
watch Legion, I just, dude, there's something about that movie that still gets under my skin to this day. Whenever I watch it alone, I'm still creeped out. I mean, that amazing shot, of course, with the nurse with that massive surgical thing. Oh, that shot is freaky as hell. George C. Scott, one of the best performances, one of the best performers. I mean, you see George C. Scott in movies like The Changeling, which is quite frankly one of the best from that time. And then in Exorcist 3, he's amazing. He truly is an amazing performer. There's something about him. He's got that X factor. I love his relationship with him and that preacher in the beginning, and they poke fun with each other. And it makes it so sad when he dies. And then when you hear Doug Bradley talking about like how he drained every drop of blood out of him without spilling an ounce of it and stuff. It's because you're picturing it all as he's describing it, and he's talking like this. It sends chills up my spine. That Doug Bradley performance is insane. People talk about, oh, dude, Doug Bradley's great in this. Doug Bradley's his best thing I've ever seen him do as a human, obviously, because Chucky's a voice, is that movie. It is horrifying. And Doug Bradley's been in Peter Jackson stuff. He's amazing. Great character actor, without question.
Brad Dourif.
What did I say?
Doug Bradley.
What the hell am I thinking? Doug Bradley's
good.
Pinhead. Brad Dourif, guys. You know that I know
Yeah.
they are. Somebody was typing their comment right now. They're calling me out. So, but yes, Brad Dourif. That is the best performance I've ever seen him in, without question. Yeah. So that movie scares the hell out of me.
Exorcist 3 for me sometimes leapfrogs The Exorcist as like my favorite in that series. I mean, it's a great movie. Like you won't get any argument from me on that. I think it's a great movie.
I have zero problems saying that I like 3 more than 1. Zero problems saying I like 3 more than 1.
Hey, everybody in the comments, let Christian hear it. I'm just kidding.
I think I'll have people agree with me. Because, dude, Exorcist 3 is... Here's the thing. They won't get mad at me, I bet. They'll say, I don't like it more than the first one, but, Exorcist 3 is really good. But then again, you never know. We could have people say I'm nuts, but I'll die on that sword.
Hey, do it. All right? Ooh, okay, guys. We're in the top 3 now. And I talked about a movie in this series earlier. And this one is going to be number 3 for me. What is that? The Conjuring 2.
Oh, wow.
I think that this movie is better than the first movie. Why? Better acting, better story. And there are so many plot points that keep you engaged in this movie. First, you have the haunted house. A family's being tormented by a spirit. Then you have Lorraine Warren dealing with her demon, the nun, Valak. And then you have probably the most intriguing storyline in the movie of, is it fake? Is she lying? And then, as Christian said earlier, it takes place in the UK. You got that 80s, the Clash type feel, that music. Like, I love this movie. I will say I've gone on record as saying this before, and I'll say it again. The Conjuring is scarier than The Conjuring 2, in my opinion. I think it's just more effective. But what's a better story? What is better characters? What is better acting? It's The Conjuring 2. What has more layers to it? It's The Conjuring 2. The Conjuring is very straightforward. Ed and Lorraine Warren go to a house that is being haunted. They find out it is a demon, and they have to exorcise said demon. The Conjuring 2 is a house is being haunted, a little girl is being controlled. Ed and Lorraine go to this house. They don't know if it's true or not. Lorraine is dealing with her own demon, and then you find out that all of those storylines connect. The Conjuring 2, for me, I just think it's a masterclass in filmmaking by James Wan. And yeah, I know some people might be watching this and going, oh my God, that's number 3 for you? Yes, that's number 3.
That one was more polarizing, I think, with fans. Again, you try to do something different. Sometimes it doesn't land, but I loved it too. I remember I was watching it. I was like, I like this one even more. I loved, especially when you had that weird animated tall thing come in that house
The
because
Crooked Man.
it was so unexpected. It was so unexpected, and I was
Yes,
like, "Oh,
sir.
whoa, where are we going with this?" So I dug it. I dug the hell out of The Conjuring 2. Now, for a second, I guess we should talk about. Okay, so the next one's called The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It. Right? Here's my thing on that title. That movie can either do one or two things, and that title works. That movie has to be really good or really bad because that title only works to me on both of those things. There is no in between. That movie cannot be okay or pretty good with that kind of title. It's either got to be freaking scary as hell or it's got to be laughably bad. And then the title works because the title sounds silly or it can sound really scary. So
Well, I
that's where
will.
I'm at.
Yeah, and I will tell you that the early reviews from it are that it is fantastic. Brad Miska from Bloody Disgusting, John Squires from Bloody Disgusting, they both gave it a raving review. So I'm optimistic. I basically, from what they've said, is it takes The Conjuring out of your normal haunted house that's been done over and over again, and it is scary, it's original, it's unique, and apparently, again, Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson do fantastic. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
All right. Well, we'll see. When does that come out? Do you know off the top of
June
your head?
4th.
Oh, boy.
Yep, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks.
We're
So,
knocking on that door.
all right, Christian, what's your number 3?
All right. Here we go. My number 3. It's
Halloween
funny.
Resurrection.
No, it's funny. My number 3 is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
I knew it. I called it earlier.
It has to be on my list. That's the movie. I'm not going to sit here. I've kind of said this before, but it's not necessarily the truth. I'm not going to sit here and say I was digging Halloween 3 before Halloween 3 was cool, but I kind of was, and you were as well, as I know very well. From the start, I just loved that movie. I just loved it. I loved how quirky it was, how weird it was. Wait up. So a big rock is killing all these kids. What? An Irish mask maker? What? But dude, I love it. And now everybody. I don't know that everybody kind of gets it, or if you, or I don't know if everybody quote unquote gets it now because I don't necessarily know that I get it, or if people are overcompensating because the film was hated for so long that now it's like no, we gotta love this movie so much. But regardless of that, I love the movie. Soundtrack wise, a home run from John. Tommy Lee Wallace. I don't think he gets. Granted, he doesn't have the biggest library of films, but he needs more credit as a good filmmaker based off of what we've seen him do. Fright Night Part 2, which is amazing. Halloween 3. He did the It series, TV series, and I mean, just even though he doesn't have a huge track record, those 3 movies right there are cult phenomenons. People love the It miniseries. People love Fright Night 2. I have friends like Pizzow and stuff. They like it more than Fright Night 1 and Halloween 3. So it's like, even though his repertoire isn't massive, Tommy Lee Wallace has made cult. Everything he's done has become a cult hit, which is so cool. But I love this movie. I don't know what else do I need to say. I love it. Conal Cochran is one of the coolest villains. He's he's so formal and he knows how to talk to people.
Hmm.
Just a small accident. She's being flown to San Francisco. Like the way he talks and stuff. I love it. I love
Hmm.
that movie.
Dan O'Hurley, may he rest in peace. That was a fantastic performance. He is easily one of my favorite villains. Um, love him. Love him. So calm, so cool, so collected, so classy. Um, oh, oh, you won't give a look even to your best salesman. Oh, it's very, there's volatile chemicals. Wouldn't want anyone to get hurt. Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
Um, love him. Love him.
He dies like such a badass too.
Yeah, he's like, oh, congrats.
Like he died. That was the best way to. That was the most like alpha male way to go out ever. Like
Yep.
pretty good, dude. You
Yep.
got me. You know, it's a quirky movie. It's so fun. Like when you binge the Halloween franchise, as I typically do, I like to do that during the season. Always get so excited when I get to Halloween 3 because I'm like, man, here's that bump in the road. Here's that bump in the road, and then we're gonna get back on track. But let's enjoy that bump in the road. So I love
Yep.
it. I love it so
Yep.
much. It's always a highlight
Um,
when I binge and I get to Halloween 3.
all right. So Halloween 3, love it. Everybody knows. Look behind me. I'm a Halloween fan. And I'm a Halloween fan that loves Halloween 3. So that is a solid pick. My number 2 is not going to be one that people would expect to make my number 2. But here we are. Doctor Sleep is my number 2 horror film of all time. And as Christian said at the beginning, is this objective or subjective? Obviously, we know this is opinionated. This is our favorite. I saw this movie in the theater, and it has had a lasting impact on me ever since. Making a sequel to The Shining, although, there was a book written, so there's source material there, but that's a tricky situation because Kubrick's The Shining is lauded by a lot of people as obviously a classic. But for me, man, Doctor Sleep, first of all, I love Ewan McGregor. I grew up on Star Wars 1, 2, and 3. So love me some Obi-Wan Kenobi. When he was cast in this movie, I was like, all right, I am on board. My worry with the movie was, are they going to lean too hard into The Shining and not let this be its own thing? And they let this movie be its own thing for 2 hours before they get to the Overlook. And once they get to the Overlook and it's waking up as he gets there, and he even says, wakey, wakey, like as he's walking through, I'm just like, oh, that is just amazing. I don't know what it is. The acting, Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat, great villain. The 90% of the movie being its own thing and not relying on the previous source material. And then the epic climax for me, at least. I love the movie. I walked out of the theater with Brooke and I was like, that was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. I mean, I love the movie so much. People in the comments, don't hate me. I love The Shining. I do. I love The Shining. But I don't know what it is about this movie, but I cannot get it out of my brain. I love this movie to death. And I hope that you guys appreciate it. And if you don't, give it another watch. But I love Doctor Sleep. So that's my number 2, man.
That's gutsy.
It is very gutsy. I cannot wait to hear what people have to say about it. But that's me.
I feel you. I don't have anything negative to say about Doctor Sleep. I liked it. I did like it. I think one of the gripes I would hear a lot of people say, and I kind of agree with this, was that the young girl, she just seemed powerful from the start. And I think a lot of people wanted to see her harness that power and figure out how to use it instead of just being like this awesome protagonist, strong protagonist. That was one gripe. I'm really neither here or there on that. I do think that the villain, she was awesome. I loved her. So great. Um, I dig it. I dig it. Like I said, I don't have anything negative to say. I do
Yeah,
think that
and
The
guys,
Shining is one of the best movies ever, though.
as Christian said, as I have said, this is all opinionated. Okay, I'm not saying Doctor Sleep is the second best horror movie ever made.
It's
No.
favorite. Like I said at the start,
Yes.
it's our favorites.
Yeah, and that just comes in at number two for me. The theater experience, the watching the 3 hour director's cut, just everything about the movie. I love it. I love it. So I'm not giving anyone any more fuel. Christian, what's your number two? And I'm excited to hear this because I know what your number one is going to be. So what's your number two?
Well, it's boring, but as we stated, that there was two entries in here, and my number two is in fact 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Um, I it's the greatest. I mean, I love the first three. I always go back and forth and ping pong which one's my favorite. Today, it's the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Tomorrow, it'll be part two. Maybe in a few days, it'll be Dream Warriors, and then I'll go back to part one. But at this moment in time, it is the first one. That's my favorite. So it had to be number two on this list today when I'm recording this. Again, I, in terms of what I like, performance wise and the way he's portrayed, this Freddy probably is or should be my favorite because he is a little goofy. I mean, the movie's very dark, but the dark humor, I think, is brilliant when when she's in the backyard and she rips his face off and it's a skeleton. Iconic as hell. I love that. The phone, I need to get a replica of that where, I love part one. I think it really is that good. I think it's a movie that ha- couldn't get made for years. And then New Line built a studio out of it. Just goes to show the power of Freddy. That expression, the house that Freddy built, that is New Line. That's the truth. Without that
Mhm.
movie, New Line probably wouldn't have ever existed. So I don't know. I love that movie. Charles Bernstein's score is magical. It just goes to show how practical effects are effective. You've got a piece of spandex on a wall with a guy pushing his head through it, and that still looks 100 times better than a CGI Freddy coming through wallpaper in the remake. You would think that people would figure this stuff out. All it was good lighting and a piece of spandex. And they probably spent all that time computer generating some weird ghost Freddy coming through a wall. Doesn't
Mhm.
even it pales in comparison. That's why a
Yeah.
movie like A Nightmare on Elm Street will last forever because and a movie like the remake, Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, won't because not only was that CGI, but that was 11 years ago. That's probably outdated CGI. Outdated
Oh,
things don't last, but
yeah.
classic things do. There's a big difference between classic and outdated. Classic is something you can always go back to and love and appreciate. Outdated is something you never want to go back to.
Yeah,
So
for sure. I mean, if you go back and watch the Nightmare remake, I mean, right now in 2021, you see that scene and you're like, oh,
it's
new.
crap.
That
It's just
yeah,
bad.
it's bad. It's bad. And I'm not a hater of that remake, but that scene, new, terrible. So no, I completely agree. And I knew your top two. And now we're at our favorite horror movie of all time. If you guys know me, you know mine. If you know Christian, you know his. So this isn't a surprise to anyone. So let's just get this out in the open. Um, it was a tie between this and Twilight, but no, Halloween, man, Halloween. It's my baby. It is my first love. You know, it competes with my fiance and my son as my first love. Um, Look, man, I remember seeing this movie as a kid. It scared me. I had babysitters all the time because my mom worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time, so I always had babysitters. Scared the crap out of me. The simplistic approach, the implementation, and really creation of the Steadicam. Um, the fact that Michael Myers is a force of evil, a force of nature, not really a person, even though he's a person. The lack of blood and more theater of the mind. I mean, I could go on and on. Halloween's my favorite horror film of all time. I mean, I have the replica jack o' lantern from the opening sequence tattooed on my arm, and I will die with that.
Dig it.
So, Yeah, I mean, Halloween, that is mine. I know Christian loves it, and I'm surprised he didn't make it in his top 10.
I've got
But
to ask. Well, it's hard, dude. It's so hard
oh, it
to
is.
pick these because I love Halloween. I mean, I love it to death. But dude, I love a lot of movies, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I get
I
it.
gotta
But what
I
are you
gotta
gonna
ask.
ask?
I was gonna ask though. I was a little surprised that I didn't hear any Rob Zombie's Halloweens. Did you struggle with that at all, or
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 was like right on the cusp. And if I do this ranking tomorrow, it's
very
in
well
there.
could be? Yeah,
Yeah.
me
Um,
too. Me too. I was really close to heaven because I do like Halloween 2 better than his Halloween 1.
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I think, is just so original and so genius for a franchise that had had 10 movies. Like, I don't know. You guys see the poster behind me. Like, I love the movie. I love the movie. It's my second favorite Halloween movie. So, yes, I struggled, but I wanted to pay homage to some of the classics that I grew up on, like Pet Cemetery, like Nightmare, like movies that had a lasting impact on me since I was a child. Um, but yeah, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, it's right there. It's right
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah, I struggled very much so. Not because I was afraid of saying I like the movie anymore, because quite frankly, I think a lot of there's so many fans of that movies, but just some of them aren't vocal, because. But I'm with you, dude. The first Halloween, I'm actually going through a period right now of just I say reappreciating. I'm high on Halloween right now. I'm loving it. I got my shirts, rocking my Michael Myers shirt today with Dr. Loomis, and you know but yeah, so to say that even though it's not on my list, I mean, Jesus Christ, I mean, it just so I can't put everything on here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I felt bad because I'm looking at my shelf right now and I'm like, wow, I left out some great movies. But I'm like, you know what? This is subjective, man. Like
hmm
or objective. I don't know. I'm tired.
It's subjective, right? Object.
Subjective.
Well,
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
do our top 10 best, that'll be more of the objective type saying, okay, The
Yes.
Shining is one of the best directed movies I've ever seen. Every time you watch it, you get something else for like, well, which spoiler alert, The Shining would make my top 10 best ever. But anyway, my number one is so obvious because I talk about it all the time. It's Return of the Living Dead. It's my favorite movie, period. Period. Scratch horror, just put movie. I'm a punk rocker till I die. Don't tell me what to do. I'm that kind of guy, right? So that movie is everything to me. From just the roots of the movie are so punk rock. You've got John Russo, who worked on the original Night of the Living Dead, wrote a script for Return of the Living Dead. Dan O'Bannon comes out and is like, I don't care who you are. Don't like your script. I'm writing my own. We're going to do my movie. That's so punk rock, you know? The cast is simply amazing. James Karen, Clu Gallagher, anything with Clu Gallagher is just money. Tom Matthews, you've got Miguel Nunez, who was, since you just watched Friday the 13th Part 5, you'll remember Reggie's older brother, Spider, taking a
Mhm.
crap, getting killed on the crapper. Great guy in that movie. There's others. The mortician who was Ernie Kaltenbrunner. I forget the gentleman's name. He's amazing. He's one of my favorite characters from the movie ever. I just love that movie. The soundtrack is to die for. You've got classics like 45 Grave, Party Time. You've got bands like the Jet Blackberries. You've got the Cramps on the soundtrack, Surfing Dead. That movie is literally everything to me, from the music, from the score, from the actors, from the plot. 2,4,5 trioxin. It's brilliant. It's the most elaborate shade of gray I've ever seen, the most focusedly driven, the most identifiable movie from any frame of it. If you see a single frame of that movie, you'll know right then and there what it is. It's Return of the Living Dead. To me, it's the greatest zombie film ever made, with the exception of Night of the Living Dead, which I do think is one of the best movies ever made as well. But in terms of zombie films, you don't beat Return of the Living Dead. It's everything to me. It's my number one.
I mean, guys, this is the Uneeda horror podcast. So you knew it was coming. I mean, it was just a matter of time. If you watch Christian, you know. Um, It is also one of my favorite zombie films. I've never been a huge zombie film person, but if we were doing a zombie film ranking, yeah, it's probably my number one, maybe number two. We'll get into that one day. I'm sure we'll tackle zombie films, but yeah, yeah. I mean, love it or hate it. That's how Christian feels. I'm sure most of you love it because that's a classic. And man, that's our top 10.
Yeah,
Don't hate on me for my list. Don't hate on Christian for his list. It's just how we feel, man.
I think if either one of us catch a little hell, it'll probably be you. But dude,
Oh
my
yeah,
audience is I got a good bunch of people that watch my show. I would assume most of the people that hate what I say just don't comment, but I could be potentially opening up a floodgate by saying that.
yep, yeah. I mean, people are gonna look at my list and be like, okay, yeah, yeah. Nightmare is on there, Halloween's on there. Like that's good, that's good. Uh,
Doctor
what
Sleep?
Doctor Sleep? What the? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know,
Right.
I know. I will say to that, guys, go rewatch it, especially the 3 hour director's cut. Go rewatch it and tell me that it isn't a masterclass in filmmaking. It may not be your favorite movie, but it's a masterclass in filmmaking.
Yeah.
So,
You'll get love from Scream. A lot of Scream fans.
oh yeah,
But yeah, this was really fun. Again, we may need to do a what do you call it? A redux, like 6 months from now.
Redux, yeah.
Is that's an abbreviation for what that word
Hmm.
means, right? What is that? What is that word? What's
It's
the
basically
long?
just
It's
God, I don't.
redoing it, right? Like
Yeah, redoing it.
we meet like in 6 months or whatever, half a year from now, we need to redo it again and see what the list would be. But this was fun. We've got a lot of cool stuff in the works. I don't want to say until it's verified.
No
And once,
spoilers, but I'm rewatching all the Friday movies.
yeah. So we've got some great guests lined up to do the show with us. I'm very excited about that. So the future is bright. We got to wear shades. It's so bright. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this lengthy podcast. So hopefully this got you through your long drive or a lonely night or just, whatever. We're really glad that you took the time to listen to our conversation. We really hope that you felt you were a part of it because that's the goal. So,
Yeah, I mean, I to all of Christian subs and to mine that are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for taking it easy on me in the comments. If you didn't take it easy on me, thank you anyway. I had a blast. And I hope that listening to us talk, especially with my microphone, was a little more palatable this time.
nobody complained last time, but they
No,
were
I
being
know, I
nice.
know.
But
I
they're
was
gonna love this.
surprised.
I'm hoping you guys are like, wow, these guys actually sound like a podcast now.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man, I had a blast, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to do this. But thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah.
It means the world. So thank you so much, and let us know in the comments what are your top 10. You know,
Yeah. Thank you. I was going to say, like, guys, please tell us in the comments your top 10 favorites. Not necessarily what you think are the best made films, but your favorites, the movies that are your ride or dice. So we can't wait to see what that is. So we love you guys. This is Christian and Nick, and we'll see you next time on the Uneeda Horror Podcast. This has been a production of the You Need a Horror Podcast. You need it, we got it. Thanks for listening.